Welcome to Design Much with Andy and Patrick.
It's fun.
Hey, Andy. Did you survive your Halloween?
I did survive my Halloween. I'm still really spooked out from our last episode when we told all those scary stories.
Yeah.
But I survived.
Nothing worse than creepy interview stories, right, Andy?
Nothing worse.
Sorry, my chair is really squeaky. Just ignore it.
Yeah, we all know. We can all hear it.
What's on the roster today?
Let's find out what's on the roster. Let's fire up our random topic generator and find out, Patrick.
We're in a new room today, by the way. We're in a small little closet room.
We
like to call Around One Fern. There's one little fake plant in the room. And two of us on a little tiny table.
As it should be. You know, I think we should be a lot closer together when we're podcasting. I want to see what your facial
Shirt's
expressions
on today,
are.
though. That's good.
Shirts are on, yeah. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how the podcast's different from having shirts on versus other episodes.
There would be less echo.
Yeah.
To clothing to absorb the sound waves.
All right. So today, Patrick, we have a topic coming from Danny Gonzalez.
Ooh.
Danny Gonzalez. That's right. And that is, the topic is networking practices as a new designer versus a seasoned designer.
New designer versus seasoned designer.
Yeah. So what is it like to network? And what do new designers do? What do senior designers do? What's the difference, right?
It's the best way to network.
Yeah. So, Patrick, I think you're pretty good at networking. You have lots of friends.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay. I don't have that many friends.
You don't have that many friends?
I have one or two friends.
One or two.
And then I know some people, and then I have a lot of people that don't like me.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know if that's good. I don't know if it's good networking or bad networking.
I don't know. That's a good question. And that might be one of the two. So what was networking like for you when you first started out as a designer? What did that look like? What were your challenges there, and what worked and what didn't work for you?
Yeah, when I first started out, I was the only designer at the company that I was working for, and I was still in college. I was still finishing up my degree, so it was kind of more like an internship, and I didn't have a network. I was, you know this, Andy. I was coming from repairing copy machines to going into design.
Yeah, it's about the same thing, right?
Yeah, they're close.
Yeah,
color printers and color graphic, no, they're not at all close. But no, so I didn't have any. I didn't know any designers. No designers. There wasn't any designers professionally that I knew. That some people have a brother or an uncle or a couple friends that are designers, and they get into it and they already have somebody kind of established that they can work with. I didn't have that, so I had I had my teachers, I had my professors at college who I tried to network with early as possible. Try to get to know them when especially the adjuncts.
Yeah.
Because they were working at different places. Like one of the adjuncts that I had a couple classes with worked at USANA, sorry.
USANA, okay.
He worked at USANA up here in Salt Lake, and he was a UX designer. So I started talking to him more, not necessarily to get a job there, but just to find out, just to meet somebody, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just started talking to people professionally that I would meet, right? And I think in either case, whether you're new to design, whether you're coming into the industry or you've been here, number one thing, Andy, would be courage.
Courage.
Yep. You need to drink your courage potion, whatever that is. If you got that from the Wizard of Oz, or if you got that from the liquor store, whatever it would be, you need a little bit of courage, first of all. But early on, I reached out to people online a lot.
Just like cold DMing people.
Dude,
right?
I snuck into everybody's DMs on Twitter.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, in the early days. Because I signed up for Twitter the second day I started work, and I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. And then I was following some blogs, some design blogs like Web Designer Depot, and then I started following just the authors of the articles, and then I would start DMing them with questions about their articles. I read this in your article. That seems interesting. Is there more information I can get from that? Or, just that kind of stuff. And some people would reply back. I'd say the conversion rate on a lot of those DMs was pretty low, 10, 15%. But surprisingly, a lot of people would reply back. Some even, some of the people that were sort of at the time, the big names in design that I would DM, even they would reply back, which I was always kind of surprised, VPs of design, other places. And then that's when I was introduced to the user group. So I started going to user groups, and that's where I found the best, for me, that was the best way to network, was user groups.
Yeah.
Or meetups.
Awesome. So I think maybe before we go a little bit further, we should probably define like what networking is, because it's very easy to say like, I just network. I just started networking.
Yeah. What is, in your mind, what is networking?
I think that's a great question. It's kind of nebulous, but like what I think it is and what I like use it for is to basically connect with other people, like-minded people that are in my profession that might be doing things different ways, that might help introduce me to, new techniques. And basically it's a way for me and another individual to share what's going on in our industry, and to learn best practices, all that stuff. So I think that's kind of what it is, and just to make like friends, just to like have human connections, to help you get better.
Yeah.
So I think like if you're networking, it doesn't mean you're handing out 20 business cards a day and they have your contact info. Yeah. It's not like just to get a job. I think what it is just like making a connection, even if it was a small thing, like where do you work? What do you do? And that's a connection. And I think that's a network.
Yeah. I think you should consider it too as a way to learn about your community and about your industry.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best ways to learn. Because like you said, you're like, where do you work? And people are like, well, I work over here. And you're like, what? I didn't know they did that over there.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn about all the companies in the area, where people work, how people work, what they do. A lot of times, I think most of the people I probably meet, I don't think I've ever met again. I would say like you're probably the same way. Like you meet a bunch of people at a meetup, and a lot of times you don't actually meet these people again. But that doesn't mean you still can't learn from them.
Yeah.
And grow from that. Also doesn't mean like later in the future that you won't bump into them again, right? And they'll remember you or whatever, and you can make that connection again. But I just think, having a bunch of people, for me, networking is about learning, and then having a bunch of people I know where I can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if I met you at a conference or something like that, I would try to like, in my brain, I would try to like categorize you as like, here's Andy.
You'd put me in a box.
Yeah,
okay.
Put you in a box. Here's Andy, and he works here. Like build a profile, just like Facebook does with all of us, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of like build a profile. I don't have I do have the yarn board at home with everybody's pictures on it with the yarn connecting and stuff like that. But that's different. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But
I want to know when you're building my profile, like what tags you added to me in your head, right?
Yeah, like hashtag cool.
Yeah.
Hashtag
nice beard.
Like witty.
Super cute.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Totes.
Totes
something, I was going to say something I can't remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
Like wicked awesome AF.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Those are usually the tags. No, but I would kind of I'd be like, well, what did we talk about? Or what could I learn from this person?
Mm-hmm.
And then in the past too, I've been, even now, like I'll remember people, and then you go, oh, where did I learn that thing from? And I probably should be better at writing things down and documenting things. But you go, oh, where did I learn that from? Oh, that was that dude over there. Oh yeah, Andy. I'm going to hit him up again on Proctive or Twitter or something like that, and then be like, hey, remember when we were talking about this?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a good way to know, like, to get to know people, obviously, but also to remember, like, oh, these are people that I can reach out to for user research.
Yeah.
Or these are people I can reach out to for this, or like leadership skills, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
These are people that I can reach out to for leadership skills or mentoring or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think I think you had courage when you were young in the design field, as you said, and you're just DMing like everybody, even like VPs, like top level designers. You were just reaching out to them. I think I am a person who is not super social, and I would be afraid to do that, thinking that they would be annoyed that I'm reaching out to them. You said you had a low, return rate of, people actually answering your DMs and responding to you. But it also seemed like you had like an okay, amount of people that were cool with answering your questions, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you have that fear, and this is, I think, what a junior designer might have that fear, that you shouldn't be afraid to do it, because if I get approached by somebody, I'm actually happy to help people out. And I think a lot of people are very happy to answer questions and talk about design and stuff like that, because it's a great way for all of us to learn and to, grow as designers.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I've experienced that in Utah. Our Utah design community is really friendly.
Yeah.
They're more than friendly. And I think it takes a lot to annoy people.
Yeah.
I don't know what other communities are like. I don't know what the Austin community is like. I don't know what the Amsterdam community is like. I don't know what any of the communities are like around the world. But I just know in Utah, people are really open and friendly to that kind of stuff. And then I think, we've proven that these meetups that we have, your product hype meetups, they get hundreds of people out to them. And I think that's why. I think people want to meet other people and talk to other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't be afraid to. I mean, you don't want to be annoying. Obviously, you don't want to leave thinking, with that other person thinking like that person was super annoying. But you also don't want to not try. Like you said, what's the cliche? You only get the shots that you take or whatever.
Yeah, you make 100% of the shots you try. I don't know.
Yeah, you'll make 0% of the shots you don't take.
Something like that. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a Wayne Gretzky quote.
Yeah,
quote. Go look it up.
Yeah, but you have to at least try, right?
Yeah.
If you were calculating a conversion rate on what you get from networking people, it's probably pretty low. If you had an app that did it. Your return on investment for that's probably a little low for every person that you meet.
Yeah.
But collectively, if you talk to 100 people and your conversion rate is 10 to 15, that's pretty low. But that's 10 to 15 new people that you can reach out to, contact later when you're hiring people. Those are 10 or 15 people that you could hire potentially. It's like that. There's another. I don't think it's Wayne Gretzky, but. A lot of times you go out and you network with people that are going to be your boss. And I think that's kind of true too. You're out networking with people and you don't know if that person in 3 years is going to be the person that's going to remember you and hire you. But if you just don't do it, and I don't think you have to be super outgoing to do it either. I
don't think so either. I totally agree, because that's totally me. And when I started out as a designer, just like you, I had nobody in my company. The company was they hire a new UX designer, which is me, right? And they didn't have one before, so it was all of us just learning together, right? So yeah, my natural thing was I found this design meetup, that was, I think, PDA at the time, and you can just go to it and learn from people. And you don't have to talk to everybody there, but you can talk to somebody you're sitting next to, ask them where they work, ask them what they do and how they like it. And then the conversation will just go into design and you'll just learn something. And I may not even remember to ask their name or remember their name, because I'm horrible at that too. But you're learning something all the way around. So it's important to have just a human connection, I think, somewhere, because if it's all you learning from just books, from watching YouTube videos, you'll get some great answers there, but you're not going to get all the answers that you specifically need, that you're looking for, especially ones that are local to you and your community. So I think, as a junior designer, if you're at all afraid, or if you're not a very social person, the least you could do is go to a meetup and just listen. Yeah. Maybe introduce yourself to a couple people.
I think that would be step one as a junior.
Yeah.
As a junior person who wants to network and wants to get out there and wants to find people to network with, that'd be the first step, is get into a meetup group and then just start attending.
Yeah.
Like don't even really, you don't even need to participate initially. Just show up, start doing that. Another thing for a junior designer is a lot of these meetups have volunteers to help them get the events created, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like the Product Hive one, I've I've heard people like juniors, they volunteer to do you know, they like videotape their meetups and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll volunteer to hold the camera, you know, that kind of stuff. And they've met people doing that, and then gotten jobs doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how they got their job, was met a person that they were also another person that was holding the camera next to them, you know? So it's like volunteer or, like the front conference here, all the conferences, design conferences all require everywhere you go have volunteer programs. I've done that before. I volunteered at like Open West for a couple years. Like you volunteer, you go out, you do whatever, you know, maybe you're just that person that's handing out flyers. Maybe you're the person that's sitting there handing out, checking people in, something like that.
Yeah.
You get to know a ton of people that
Mm-hmm.
way. And people see you, you know, and they ask you questions and stuff like that. So just participate. Another thing as a junior, I think you can do, is create your own meetup. There's nothing that's stopping you from creating your own meetup.
That's true.
You can create your own junior designer meetup.
You absolutely could. And that would be awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many junior designers out there. So whoever's
And then reach
considering
out to
that,
the one person you know.
Yeah.
And then say, look, I started this meetup. Can you tell your friends? And then those friends tell their friends, and it goes on.
Yeah.
And then with a place like Meetup or any of those places, like
Eventbrite.
it's out there, and they have their own. So when another person's like, what do I do? He said to go get into a meetup, and he types in design meetup, and he sees your meetup, and so then he signs up for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of also what I did. Is I didn't like any of the meetups. I mean, I like some of them, but some of them I didn't like at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my own.
Yeah.
And that's I think I met a lot more people when I started my own.
You also learn so much
Yeah.
when you're like running a meetup.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into that.
You
It's a
learn
lot of work.
I was going to say
great.
you learn you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think something else I wanted to suggest as well that I think is really important for a junior designer, I'm going to say two things. The first thing is look for a mentor. So there are mentor like opportunities. Like here in Utah, we have like a mentorship program that Product Hive also runs. You can sign up for that and just get a mentor. And that's one way to start talking to people and learning from people. You'll learn from somebody who like is willing to teach you and has more experience in the field.
Yeah.
So that would be
on
really
that,
great.
before you go to the other one, on that one, it doesn't have to be formal. So I've had some Dev Mountain students ask me as I started teaching down there again, like, how do you find a mentor?
Yeah.
Like, how do I ask them to be my mentor? I'm like, you don't. You find a person you respect and you start talking to them.
Just ask them some questions, right?
Yeah. And then be like, hey, you want to go to lunch sometime? You want to talk about this? And then eventually, before they even know it, they're mentoring you,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
It doesn't have to be like an official thing.
I don't know. Well, at one point, you're going to have to, DTR, like sit down and like, so what is this? What are we doing here? Right?
Yeah. What is the meaning of our relationship?
So that might happen. Then it's formal at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a formal thing you pay for or anything. Just like it could be one of your buddies. It could be somebody that's just in the, working in the industry you want to be in. Just find somebody. Absolutely.
And I think moving on to the next thing that's really important is, I think, job shadowing, especially for a junior designer. You're knocking on the table, Patrick.
I'm knocking on the table with enthusiastic agreement.
That's right. Here, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is super important for so many reasons because my assumption here, and I don't know everybody, of course, but I think a lot of people are open to allowing you to job shadow at a company. All you really need to do is just hit them up, just DM them anywhere, and be like, "Would you be willing to?" They're going to say yes or no, and that's the end of it, right?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, you get to go and see the environment that a designer works in. You get all the time, like all that time to just ask them questions and see what they're doing and see like really intimately like what a designer does every day. And there's so much you can learn from that. And there's also a lot of great networking that happens there too, because you're also talking to anybody else you're interacting with developers, with QA, with other designers, and you get to just meet the team and see what they do every day and how they interact. And it's even possible to get a job from job shadowing. Isn't that right, Patrick?
100% possible.
It's absolutely possible. I think you've hired somebody.
You never know. You could be totally surprised. You could say like, hey, I'm going to come in and job shadow and then find yourself in a job interview. And then by 3:30 p.m. that afternoon, find yourself, get yourself a phone call from that person and say, we have an offer for you.
Yeah.
That could happen,
All
which
did
day. Happen.
It's happened before.
Yeah, we've had good experiences at Canopy with job shadowing. I've always been kind of open to it because I asked people to job shadow a lot when I was starting out.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what part of the world I wanted to like what part of the digital design world I wanted to work in. So I would go shadow places. Like I shadowed an agency and it was very evident that was not good for me. You know, my beard wasn't cool.
Yeah.
The boot thing, I didn't wear boots. Like it was definitely not where I was supposed to work. So job shadowing, it helps you immensely as a junior designer. It also, you just don't know. Like we've had people that have come in and job shadowed at Canopy that like didn't get hired at Canopy or anything like that, but they've reached out to us for further advice on career moves and things like that. I had somebody hit me up just the other day that job shadowed like 3 years ago. And she was wondering if she should go to this, if she should take this other job, if it would like hurt her career to take it.
Wow.
And so like that's what a network is for, right?
Yeah.
She felt comfortable enough reaching out to me, you know, years later about that because we got to know her when she job shadowed here at the company.
Yeah, and that's really cool.
And you spend time and it's like, let's say you go to a company and there's 9 designers, you're probably going to meet 5 or 6 of them. And, you know, some of them, you know, you might stick with, you know, some of them are cool. Some of them want to talk to you more. Some of them aren't, doesn't matter. But job shadowing is a great way to build your network.
Absolutely. And you're just learning so much from that experience. And it's also like showing like from the, you know, the team side of things, like this person like actually is trying to learn. They're like really making an effort to do it. They're putting themselves out there to do it. So it's I think it's important to do. And you can see like how all the different companies, you know, in your local area work and see what kind of company you'd want to work at.
Yeah.
So I think there's just so many benefits from that. So if you're not doing it, I would recommend start doing it.
Yeah.
Start trying to job shadow, find a mentor.
I think a huge difference between juniors and senior level designers doing it is that I think senior level designers quit doing it after they get their senior level job.
I think so too.
And I think that's really bad for you. I don't think you should do that. And here's why. Unless you really enjoy the hiring process, which I don't think, I think 0 people have ever said like, hey, that was a great hiring process. Like, I love finding a job. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's ever said that. It can't be. Psychopaths, maybe. But, like, nobody wants to interview for a job. Everybody hates that. And as a senior designer, if you maintain your network, the chances of you getting your next job from somebody in your network are extremely high. There was the last 3 jobs we talked about this. I don't have a portfolio. I don't have a resume. I don't have anything because the last couple of jobs I've gotten, the last couple of jobs I received have all been from people that have known people that have known me or something.
Yeah.
And so it's like they recruit you, you know, because if you're in people's networks, you know, and you've maintained those relationships on some level, not even like, you know, just the occasional like LinkedIn message, the occasional, hey, grab lunch, just like light stuff, not heavy stuff. Like you don't have to be involved in these people's lives that much.
Yeah. You don't have to send them a holiday card or anything.
But when I'm hiring somebody, what's the first thing any hiring manager does?
You always ask us as a team, do you guys know anybody that would be great for this job?
You write down a list of people you know.
Yeah.
Then you usually ask your design team, okay, who do you know? and then you ask your buddies that work at some other companies, who would you recommend? All of those recommendations come from somebody's network, either from who they've worked with, who've job shadowed them, who they've met at meetups that they thought were cool. Like that's where those people come from.
Yeah.
And so I think maintaining those relationships is really important as you become senior. I don't think anything changes as you grow in your career. I think you still should go to meetups. I think you still should do all those things and be brave, drink your courage, all that stuff. But I think the difference is you need to work a little bit harder maintaining some of those relationships you've built.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty good sum up of those differences of like a senior versus a junior. As a junior, you're probably not doing as much and you're probably afraid to do it.
Yeah.
So those are some tips that you can do to get going on that. And as a senior, you have to maintain it. You have to, of course, have one in the first place. And you have to keep doing those same things and just maintaining those relationships, right?
Yeah. I was talking with Emma earlier about corn and analogies to corn. I think there's a really good analogy to corn here.
So is this Corn the band? Or is this Corn?
Oh, if you want to talk
vegetable?
about Corn the band, let's throw that on the topic.
I don't know if I do.
Comes out. No, this is corn. This is like corn, not with a K, but with a C.
Okay, with a C.
With a C and a regular facing R.
Okay.
No, like when you first start out, you were planting those seeds of a network, right?
Yeah.
Hear me out. You're planting the seeds of the corn, right? I think all too often seniors, when the corn starts to grow, they forget about it, right?
Yeah.
And so you still need, just because corn is there, just because the corn is growing doesn't mean it doesn't need your attention. And I think you need to go out in your cornfield every once in a while and, prune stuff up, get rid of the bugs. Some of the bugs out of there. Mm-hmm. Put a scarecrow up in there every once in a while to scare some of the assholes away. Like that kind of stuff. You need to maintain that cornfield a little bit. Because if you don't, you're going to wind up being like out of a job and don't know anybody in the industry. Like it'll go past you fast.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like to use another stupid things like life moves fast. You got to stop and look around every once in a while.
But no, it's totally true. You never know when you're going to need that network to help you find a job or to help you answer a question. Because if you're maybe taking on a new position and you don't know how to do this, you want to talk to some people about it that have done it before. Or maybe you're laid off. Maybe I don't know. You need a new job, and then if there's nobody there to help you out, then you might be a little bit in trouble.
Or maybe you want to go to a conference and all the people in your office don't want to go to the conference with you. And you're like, well, who can I go to the conference with?
Yeah. You need a buddy.
I'll go out there and talk to them.
Yeah.
I'll go to my network. Who's going to the conference? I'll meet you. You see that all the time, like on Twitter. Hey, I'm going to be at the Circles conference in Texas. Let's hang out sometime. And I always wonder if anybody actually ever connects that way.
So you're saying you never connect to those people then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that seems like they're going to kill me on some level.
Yeah, that's right.
Want me to meet them somewhere?
All those
no, they're going to meet on my terms.
Those design serial killers out there.
I did an interesting thing 2 years ago on Twitter. There was a lot of people on Twitter that I followed on Twitter that I felt like I knew really well, but I had never met them face to face. And so I started to, and I failed at this. I should have kept up with it. But I started to reach out to all of those people that were local in the local area that I hadn't ever met in real life. And I started to set up Red Bull dates with them.
Red Bull dates?
Let's go grab a drink. Let's go grab lunch. Let's grab breakfast. Let's grab something. I want to meet in real life, right?
Okay.
And I was a little nervous to do it, but I was surprised. Like the first 10 or 15 people were like, yeah, that's great, And then you meet in real life and you realize they're like weird. And then you're like, well, I don't really like you anymore. So maybe that's not a good thing to do. I don't know. I found it really interesting to meet people in real life because
cool.
The way you perceive them is a little bit different, and people's personas online too can be pretty skewed. Mm-hmm. Because I come off as being like, this, Andy. I come off as being like some angry jerk online sometimes,
exactly.
And that I'm not, right?
No, not at all, Patrick.
Like I'm a sweetheart. I'm a teddy bear.
You are.
So I always find it interesting when people are like, "You're an ass," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. Who told you that? Like, your freaking Twitter account told me that." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but you can't take everything I say on there seriously." So I'd be like, if you're networking and you're doing stuff like that, like try to get to know some of the people too a little bit. Don't just assume that they're, this person. Don't assume that they're like that, because I think that's easy to do when all you do is you hear about people on LinkedIn, or the only time you interact with them is like in a Slack group. I think you can make some big assumptions.
Yeah, and you can do like what you did to me and put me in a box and just read the cover of my book and not the inside of it.
We do that after we meet in real life, though, like little tidbits of stuff.
Yeah, because you're going to learn more about him. Absolutely. At first, you're going to be like, "Yeah, this Patrick's a total jerk online. I'm gonna go do a Red Bull with him and and find out he just wants to give hugs to everybody."
Yeah, which is also not the case. Don't spread that around. That seems weird. But Andy, to your point, like you being more of a quiet fellow, you have a pretty good extensive network of individuals. Like, what were some of the things that you did?
Some of the things that I did, well, I started a podcast where I had people come in and I met them for the first time in front of a microphone.
That's a pro tip too.
It's a really good way to do it.
Anybody can start a podcast.
Anybody can.
And a lot of people are.
Yeah. And I met a lot of really awesome designers. Everybody we've had, and even non-designers, everybody we've had on this podcast has just been an awesome person.
Except for one. We'll talk about that another day.
Yeah, that one was...
When we talk about corn, we'll talk about that person.
That's one way that I have employed networking. I had to really put myself out there and I had to be a little bit courageous in terms of like starting a podcast and all that kind of stuff. So that's been my way of doing it. And here and there, I'm not great at it, but going to meetups here and there, and kind of talking to people. I'm still very shy at those meetups. But if anybody out there, if you have questions that you want to ask myself or Patrick, you can slide into our DMs and ask us. Yeah. If you see us at a meetup, if you see us at a conference, you can just ask us a question.
Yeah.
Give us a high five.
Give Andy a hug.
You can give me a hug. Don't give Patrick a hug. Because
what, Andy?
I don't know where I was going with that.
Hug too long? Is that what you're trying to say?
I guess. I don't know.
It's a 30-second rule, man.
30 seconds, that's a long time for a hug.
That's a long hug, dude.
Yeah. I think
that's a legit...
A 4-second hug is more appropriate.
More the pat on the back.
Yeah.
Type of like, hey, what's up, buddy?
You connect, 2 pats, then you disconnect. Yeah. That's the hug. That's 4 seconds.
Yeah, there you go. We'll design a proper hug one of these days.
Yeah.
User testing will be fun.
Mm-hmm. That'll be the best part.
Yeah, just get out there. Meetup's the easiest way to do it, I think. If you can find a local user group in the area. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Then just go try it out. Some of them are weird. Some of them can be a little weird. I'll be honest. I've been to some meetups where I was like, this is a little weird.
Like Design Much Workshops, that one.
That one was pretty bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, pro tip too, find stuff with like free food. That's always nice.
It's a great plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because people are a lot more like fluid and able to talk when you have Domino's in your tummy.
More relaxed.
Yeah.
When you're kind of bumping into each other, getting the Domino's line, right? You're like trying to get the pizza, and you're like, oh, they got pineapple over there, and you're like, oh, who's this guy asked for pineapple? And so you know who to stay away from. Like it's a good way to like pick and choose.
Yeah. Or you might have like as they call it, a meet cute with your next best friend designer, where you're both reaching for the same pizza and your hands touch. And then you look up at each other and
like a little creepy, but I get it.
And then you're like best friends, okay? Yeah. And then you're talking about pizza, you're talking about design.
And what Andy's trying to say is that's what happened to us.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
We were both reaching for the meat lovers.
Absolutely, the meat lovers. I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah, just get out there. Be courageous, huh? Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Just
Do it.
do it.
Okay. If you guys have any topics like this one, let us know. Topics@designmuch.com. Or just do hashtag topics. DesignMuchTopics.
At designmuch.org. It's
At
actually.
designmuch.org.
Yeah,
yes,
not
we're not
.com.
.com. We're at .org.
Yeah.
Domain's cheaper.
Yeah.
So .org. Sorry about that.
Super embarrassing.
And then until next time, Andy. Maybe we'll get a bigger studio,
Who knows?
bigger, better things coming forward. Right? Maybe,
Anything's
hopefully.
possible. We'll see. We'll see,
Okay.
Patrick. I'm excited for the future.
Okay, have fun, Andy.
You too.
What? What?